Welcome back to Genshin Interact. Today we're going to be talking about the upcoming characters and specifically the 4-star characters in the second half of 4.6 alongside the 5 stars Wanderer and Baiju.
Losing the 50-50 is the worst feeling in Genshin. And I understand, believe me. That's why whenever I have nothing left and am in the dilemma of whether or not to spend, I use Loot Bar. Loot Bar is 100% safe and only requires your Genshin UID to purchase Genesis crystals. Normally, the price for me to buy 6,480 crystals is $100, but you can see here how Loot Bar has reduced the price to about $85, and if you're a new user, you get an additional 5% off. The way it works is that Loot Bar tops up your account through the official channel with Hoyoverse. After making a purchase, you can expect to receive it in 30 minutes or less. In my case, I received mine in just about 5 minutes. Another comforting thing about Loot Bar is that they are trustworthy and offer 24/7 live support. Other creators like Dukaja, Jello Impact, Supera Tom, Mujin, and Tevat Times have endorsed and used this product themselves, including both Vixen and myself. Just use the link in the description to get another discount on top of the already cheaper prices at purchase. Thank you Loot Bar for sponsoring today's video, and now, let's dive in.
Looking at the characters, obviously in general, we have Beidou, Farazan, and Layla. Now Rift, could you at least get us started off by talking about Beidou?
Well, I will start off by saying Beidou is an amazing character. I would highly recommend. If you are a new player, she's going to be very good, but here's the catch. You can buy her in the store, which I don't think she's available right now, but maybe when the store changes. I don't have the schedule with, and all that stuff pulled up, but she is in that rotation, so she can be obtained there. So if you are completely free to play, I would say it's your best bet to just wait for that, especially if you're not pulling on Wanderer or Baiju, which we have a whole video talking about that in our to pull or not to pull series. You can find the link at the top. Overall, though, she's a great character, and her constellations are well worth it. She has an amazing C6, and honestly, all of her cons along the way are really good value. So she's a character I definitely recommend using. I use her to this day with a lot of my, hyper-invested teams. I use her with my Sino. I use her with my Wanderer, actually. She actually has a lot of really great teams just because she's a great character as an off-field electro application. She also is a shielder when you get her C1. So she's a very fun, easy character to play, and it's just very versatile, to be honest. So I really like her, but Vixen, what are your initial thoughts on Beidou?
Well, I've really liked Beidou for a very long time. She's been on a lot of different teams for me, and especially like you were talking about, that C1 has been extremely nice to have a very good shield for a lot of different characters, in general, with a lot of things going on, especially recently with taser teams with Neuvillette, has been an extreme helpful situation for people who have C0 and don't have that first constellation. So Beidou has a lot of usages here and there. And I know a lot of people kind of force, oh, she's not good, because you kind of have to be very close for her, her burst hits to kind of hit something. But I do think that even outside of that, her own personal damage is pretty good. In general, when you're charging up that skill hit, when you're holding it and swinging it back out to enemies, it's a nice little bit of damage hit. Plus, obviously you're taking a big hit that could be coming your way and blocking it. In general, I think she's just a great character. She's super fun, and she does work with a lot of different teams, and she can be a shielder if you don't have somebody that's extremely good at shielding, someone like Zhongli, for instance, who's a 5-star and could be way more difficult to get. Now, like you were talking about, Rift, she is in the shop that you can get, and she comes around in February and August alongside of Noelle, so she'll be gone for a little bit longer, but thankfully she's on the banner now, so if you kind of want to, get her maybe in the future and you don't want to necessarily waste some wishes right now on her, you can know that at least in February and August, she'll at least be available for you to pick up there.
Of course, and just once again, talking about the shielding, I think she's great. You mentioned C0 Neuvillette. I also think she's a good candidate for C0 Arlecchino. If you're a player who has Chevrus, you can do some really fun overload comps with her, and she's going to work as a great shielder for that team that isn't also sacrificing a lot of damage, just because she does have a lot of good personal damage from off field. So definitely try her out for some teams like that. But looking at another 4-star on this banner, we have Farazan. Now, admittedly, she's probably the best 4-star on here in terms of like C6s, right? We all know, if you've been playing long enough, that Farazan is one of the best C6 4-stars that exists right now, just because her insane buffing is absolutely crazy. Even like, I would say she's better than Bennett, Mona. I would even, and maybe this is a hot take, I would rather use Farazan for my Wanderer than Farina. I always find myself when I'm building teams around Wanderer, because I use Wanderer pretty regularly, I'm always finding like I have to have Farazan. That's a no-brainer, right? She's got to be in the team. And even when I use Hazo, Farazan's in there. If I had Zhao, I'd be throwing Farazan in there. And maybe Vixen, you can talk more about that because you're actually a Zhao main. I'm not. But like, she is an amazing character. And even without the C6, her buffing to Anemo is still off the charts because she's still giving the Anemo damage bonus from her burst, as well as shredding Anemo resistance off of the enemies that is, you know, affecting and coming into contact with. So forget the C6, whether you're getting all that extra crit damage, you're still getting a resistance shred for Anemo damage and an Anemo damage bonus. So she's still really, really good at C0. And I remember when she first released with Wanderer's first banner, she was a lot of fun to use when I did pick up Wanderer on his first run.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely extremely good. I mean, Farazan is, if you are an Anemo person who has either Wanderer, or you maybe even use a Hazo, or, you know, obviously if you have Zhao and you've been playing him, you're going to be using Farazan. C0 to C6, there's no real change, you know, necessarily about whether you're going to use her or not use her just because she's not C6 yet. Some of those characters, for instance, like a Kujo Sara, personally for me, I'd rather just run, you know, like my AI Miko or whatever, even though I'm maybe not getting a huge buff or whatever, it's just better for overall team damage. But Kujo Sara, when she hit C6, it was kind of like, okay, now I can use her to make my ride-in hit a crazy number hit. Whereas, you know, for Farazan kind of has a little bit of a different, you know, feel. For instance, like you were talking about with my Zhao, I immediately with her C0, C1 or whatever, whenever she first came out and I got a few cons of her, I still used her even though she wasn't a C6. Now, the C6 was definitely a good necessity to look out for down the line, kind of like Chevreuse is for Overload.
Right,
but,
right.
you know, she's still extremely useful at C0, and I do think actually it's a very good comparison to how Chevreuse is for Overload. It's very similar to how if you have a damage, you know, Anemo character, then having Farazan C0 to C6, in general, you're going to want her on the team. Personally, from the damage that I've seen from playing with you, Rift, as you know, a buffer to my Zhao, playing with my other friend Concordia, who has a C6 Farina, even that is extremely nice and helpful. My best support for my Zhao and even my Wanderer as well is my C6 Farazan. And, you know, that's extremely helpful, not only like you were talking about Rift for all the passive talents and whatnot, but as well the extreme just, you know, and you can have some of the extra help from weapons and whatnot, but also the artifact set when you get to C6 is extremely useful to get tenacity just because of the constant attack buff that she gives as well.
Right. I think overall, if you're free to play watching this, if you are deciding to pull Wanderer and you somehow get him before getting a Farazan copy, I don't think you'd be too remiss to keep going just to see if you can get that one copy, because she's going to make a huge difference to Wanderer's personal damage. Almost, I wouldn't even say almost double. Like, it's that big. It's, once again, like you said, it's like having a Chevreuse and an Overload. It's just absolutely amazing. But now looking at the last 4-star on this banner lineup, we have Layla, which I think it's been quite a while since we've had her. As a cryo character, she's very, very good. I personally like her. I got her on her first run, built her up pretty quickly. She's a very comfortable support unit. She's an easy flex if you need a shielder or some kind of sustainer. She, I would say, has one of the most powerful shields of any 4-star. I think she has a more powerful shield than Diona, Toma, and assuming obviously those are, you know, they are characters on their shield build, like get full HP builds, right? Layla has a very impressive shielding capability and also has 100% uptime. Her skill lasts for 12 seconds. If it, you know, the shield lasts that long, obviously, but also has a cooldown of 12 seconds. And that's 100% uptime, but also is a nice time for your main DPS. You're always going to be on cooldown as soon as you come back through for rotation. It's not like an 18-second cooldown or even a 20-second cooldown where usually some rotations are too fast to get back around to using the skill again, or something like that. So she's a very, very comfortable unit. If you go full HP build, very comfortable shield to have. So really good for even this character on the banner, Wanderer, if you want to use her with that. Maybe you don't have Zhongli. Wanderer has one of those things in his kit where if you swirl cryo upon using the skill, you're going to get 20% crit rate. So using Layla, you're getting the really good shield and you're getting 20% crit rate if you're able to get that cryo swirl once you use the skill. So she's actually a pretty good teammate for a character like Wanderer. Just throw Farazan in there, and then that last character slot, you can do anything you really want. Probably I say something you can swirl or off-field damage, which honestly makes Beto even a great character for this too. So this could be a good full team for a completely new player. and this is the first banner that they see logging into the game, you're going to be doing great if you can pick up any one of these characters. And even outside of Wanderer, I've used her for a lot of things. She's been really fun with Hu Tao, just for having the shield if you're not using Zhongli once again. So very great budget shielder to have because she just is so good at it.
I totally agree. I think that in general, obviously, she's just a great shielder. She's basically your budget Zhongli if you can use her as well. And obviously, having her just in general for some freeze options is extremely good. I know a lot of people use her for a lot of different reasons, not necessarily just that, but for other reasons as well. But you were talking about when she was last here, her last burn was actually in 3.6 with Nahida and Nilu, or sorry, Nahida and Nilu in the first half of 3.6. So it's been a hot minute since she's been around. It's been almost a year, so I mean, or over a year. So it's been a long time since she's been around to be a 4-star on the banner, which is kind of crazy actually, because I'm looking through the banner history right now and I don't see. I control F to just straight up look where she was, and I didn't see where she was before that. But in general, I think she's a good character, so it will be a long time you'll probably see her again because of just the amount of 4-stars that we don't get in general as well. So it'll probably take a long time for her to come back. So if you do want her, or maybe some cons, like Rift was talking about, putting her with Wanderer would not be a bad choice, even if you have Wanderer, to maybe try to go ahead and get some constellations, or maybe even get Layla to throw in your team.
Yeah, definitely. And that also opens up your other side for maybe if you do have Zhongli, use him on that team, right? So she's very easy to slap with Wanderer and a lot of other characters as well. One other thing I was going to mention about her, she's really good with the tenacity set because you're getting the HP, which is what her shielding scales off of, and you're giving attack whenever her skill is hitting, right? And her skill has it's not just the shield, but it's those curtains of slumber, the little stars that kind of gather up, and you get 4 of them, and then they all shoot out. Those will proc tenacity, giving your other characters that attack buff, but also giving you a shield buff. And in this case, that's helpful too, right? Where most of the time you're using tenacity, not just for the HP on the 2-piece, you're really using it for the attack buff consistently, but here you're getting that, and the shield buff is also helping her own shield. So it just makes sense, and I don't know, it feels satisfying because you're getting the full use out of the set.
Well, that's everything we have looking over these 4-star characters. Let us know down in the comments if you guys are excited for any of these 3 characters, or maybe you're looking to try to maybe grab some constellations, or if you're just excited to go for the 5 stars as well. Go ahead and let us know down below, as well as go ahead and like and subscribe if you like the content, as well as go ahead and check out our Discord. We do have one as well if you wanted to go ahead and see and maybe just hang out with us and be a little bit more connected with us, or you wanted to go talk to some other people that are just as deranged about Genshin as we are. So if you want to go ahead and do that, the link should be in the description as well. That's everything we've got for this video. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.